It's fair to say that the changes proposed for dividend taxation in the summer budget came as a bit of a surprise. They are proposed to apply from the 6th of April 2016, and so far, based on the limited amount that we've seen, there are no anti-forestalling provisions, but of course that may well change. So how do they work? Well, they work on the premise that it's a simplification, the removal of the 10% tax credit, the removal of the need to gross up the net dividend received and work out the tax based on that gross amount and then take off the tax credit. All of that will go, and it's replaced by this, a £5,000 tax-free allowance for everybody. So your first £5,000 of dividends will be tax-free, regardless of your tax rate. Then the application of a straightforward rate to the net dividend received. If you're a basic rate taxpayer, that straightforward rate would be 7.5%. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, that rate would be 32.5%. If you're an additional rate taxpayer, 38.1%. So what does that all mean? How does it compare with the position right now? Well, for basic rate taxpayers, they don't pay tax on the net dividend received anyway. So the £5,000 is not a huge benefit to them. In fact, it's no benefit. The 7.5% rate applying after 5,000 actually is detrimental though. Of course, for any basic rate taxpayer, receiving dividends of more than £5,000. So what sort of portfolio do you need to receive a dividend of more than £5,000? 3.5% yield, roughly £140,000. Okay, so how about higher rate taxpayers? Well, their effective rate now at 32.5% is 7.5% more than their current effective rate of 25%. When will they be affected? When will they be worse off? Well, you'd need a portfolio of around 600,000 to generate dividends of 21,000, which is about when you'd be worse off. So that's leaving most higher rate taxpayers not worse off by these provisions. And for additional rate taxpayers with the rate at 38.1%, they're worse off when dividends reach around £25,000 than they are currently. You'd need a portfolio of around 700,000 to produce that amount. So when we look at this, basic rate taxpayers receiving dividends from investments or from any source will be worse off with dividends above £5,000. For higher rate taxpayers, they'll be worse off with dividends above £21,000, and additional rate taxpayers worse off when dividends reach £25,000. Pretty good example of regressive taxation, we'd have to say. Right, okay, what does this mean for SME owners, people owning their own business, many of whom will take their benefits from the business by way of dividend as opposed to salary? They're national insurance free, why would you not do that? Attempts, not hugely effective, in fact not effective at all, attempts to apply national insurance to dividends, to apply some form of substance over form ruling, to treat them as earnings, have been thought about in the past but not taken forward. This change is quite an elegant one and affects SME owners quite obviously more than investors, hopefully, as I've just explained. Why does it affect them? Well, if you're taking your dividends from your business and you're taking, as a higher rate taxpayer, more than £21,000, you're going to be worse off. As an additional rate taxpayer, more than £25,000, you're going to be worse off. As a basic rate taxpayer, more than £5,000, you're going to be worse off. I think this new provision is directly aimed at those. So in the lead up to 2016, there's a lot of serious, important conversations that will need to be had with your clients, especially those who are SME owners, in relation to these new changes and what planning might need to be taken ahead of these new changes. For example, bringing forward dividend payments, particularly for those who have control over the dividend source, i.e. their own company. There are some other issues to consider which we hope to get some more detail on, but it says the detail will come in the 2016 finance bill, so we might have to wait a little while for that, till at least October. Things like, will the 7.5% rate apply to life insurance companies, or will it be possible to have your dividends inside a UK life bond building up with no tax on them, which could make bonds look a little more attractive for those who are detrimentally affected by these provisions on dividends held in investments or generated by investments outside of a bond. So, things to consider, awaiting detail, but definitely conversations to have and be informed in relation to those conversations, because there is a bit of detail in this by just reviewing the Techlink bulletin, the budget bulletin, and the bulletins that will emerge over the coming weeks, looking at these provisions in more detail.